In my last life, I relied on my status as a rich second generation and forced Lu Ruyan to marry me. But I didn't expect that she would stay dormant for 3 years, and finally took away all my family's property, and forced my parents to jump off the building. Only then did I know that everything was just her plan. I didn't want to die too ugly, so I chose to commit suicide by swallowing pills. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day when I first met Lu Ruyan. This time I didn't look at him more, but turned around and married Bai Ningbing according to my parents' wishes. I agreed to marry Ningbing, and the words fell, and there was a dead silence around. All the words my parents had prepared were stuck in their throats. My childhood friend also had a look of seeing a ghost. After all, just a second ago, I was determined not to agree to this marriage. At this time, footsteps came from the door and I looked back. It was Lu Ruyan. In my previous life, I was rebellious and obsessed with looks, so I refused to agree to my family's arrangement. When I was arguing with my parents, Lu Ruyan appeared and I fell in love with her at first sight. Ignoring everyone's opposition, I just wanted to marry this beautiful and ambitious woman. And Lu Ruyan was also very competitive. It took only 3 years to seize my family's property and forced my parents to jump off the building. Only then did I realize that my robbery was just what she wanted. Now I didn't look at him anymore and turned back to my room. My childhood friend came up to chat with me, and I heard shocking information from him. It's not surprising that you don't care about business matters and don't know Lu Ruyan. The strong woman who has emerged in the business world is so beautiful that people who want to marry her line up all the way to France. I was so shocked that I stuttered a little. Strong women are emerging in the business world. Childhood friend, yes, didn't you hear your dad call her Mr. Lu just now? This is not right. According to the time in the previous life, Lu Ruyan is still a female social animal who works as an assistant under my father. The rise of strong women in the business world happened 3 years later. Is my memory confused? A few days later, my dad took me to have dinner with the Bai family. As soon as I arrived at the door of the restaurant, I met Lu Ruyan again. Someone next to me pulled my dad to greet him. Lu Ruyan approached me and asked in a low voice, "Do you agree to marry Bai Ningbing?" I looked up at him in confusion. I shouldn't know him at this time. You are Lu Ruyan, who didn't answer my question and said what he wanted to say, "Don't marry Bai Ningbing." So funny that he said if he doesn't marry me, then he won't marry me. If he doesn't marry Bai Ningbing, will he marry her? Then let him force my parents to death again. When I think of the scene in my previous life when my parents jumped off the building and died in front of me, I feel heartbroken. I blame myself very much. It was because I was too willful that they died. I will never go down that road again in this life. What I didn't expect was that Lu Ruyan came to propose marriage the next day. My parents were also shocked. My mother asked me softly, "Yuan, when did you know her?" If she didn't know, why did she come to propose marriage? She is still the woman. I couldn't answer. In fact, my parents wanted me to marry Lu Ruyan. After all, her current net worth is not comparable to that of 10 Bai families. But I don't want to no matter what. My parents think it's very strange, and my childhood friend thinks it's even more strange. Why don't you want to marry Lu Ruyan? You are rich and beautiful, but you take the initiative to propose marriage. Don't you like beautiful ones? I like ugly ones now. My parents are in Lu Ruyan. Now I dare not refuse them in person. Lu Ruyan agreed to let me think about it. But she came to me again to ask why she didn't want to marry me. We didn't know each other. "I know you are back." I was shocked. How could he know that I was back? Could he be reborn? But when I died in my previous life, he was in glory. Why did he die? I gritted my teeth and suppressed all the panic, pretending to be calm. I didn't understand what Mr. Lu said. No matter how rich and powerful you are, you can't force me to marry you in a society ruled by law. Why not? Lu Ruyan's eyes are unfathomable, and her tone is light and slow, but with a suffocating sense of oppression. "Fang Yuan, I want to marry you, and I will definitely do it. Why did I lick her in my last life and didn't get a testimony until I died? I don't want to marry her in this life, but she insists on me marrying her. Why do people have to be so mean? Or does she have some other conspiracy in this life?" Lu Ruyan in this life is no different from the previous life, and she does not hesitate to be ruthless. Under his strong suppression, the Bai family soon became bankrupt. Bai Ningbing looked haggard, but still apologized to me gently. "I'm sorry, Yuan, our marriage is going to be invalidated." I thought that I would hurt him to this extent. I don't know when Lu Ruyan will be crazy. I had no choice but to go to him. "What on earth are you going to do, Rob?" He chuckled. "Isn't this your favorite game?" I suddenly remembered, when did she stop being low-key? Wasn't it after she met Zhou Luo? Her outfit was worth my 5 years' salary, and I was jealous and complained to Zhou Luo about this young lady. Later, when he gradually had things that didn't match his salary at the time, I didn't think much about it, thinking that they were just high imitations for show. They must have hooked up at that time, so what should I be ashamed of? After I found out that I was attracted to Gu Yuan Chen, I broke up with him 3 days later. I started the next one after the end of one relationship, unlike them who have been sneaking around for almost a year, so what do I have to be ashamed of? Then why am I crying? I was fooled, isn't it obvious, Mom? Mom, I was cheated. I remembered to ask myself again if Gu Yuan Chen hadn't appeared, would I have broken up with Zhou Luo? The answer is no. Zhou Luo and I were from similar families. He met my expectations of the other half in all aspects and was a suitable marriage partner. So even if he was indifferent to me, I could turn a blind eye. At most, I would be indifferent. At that time, I thought that love was not the whole of marriage. It was just finding a pleasing partner to live with. Many married colleagues around me were incompatible in appearance, and so were we. I could ignore the fact that he came home later and later, and ignored the smell of perfume on him that didn't belong to me. All men were the same, and no one was more suitable than him, so I turned a blind eye. There was no need to break up until I met Gu Yuan Chen. He was cheerful and outgoing. When he was pursuing me, he expressed his love for me without any hesitation. He was so shameless that I was speechless many times, but he would also blush because he held my hand. Because of his bold pursuit, I realized how suffocating a relationship between the sexes without feelings is. I can't be as dead as water. I still hope to be loved, but it's all fake. Why are there 4 people entangled? 3 of them know it and only I am like an idiot. But they actually put themselves on the moral high ground and examine me. Why do they use cold violence to force me to break up, and when it doesn't work they make me move? Do the looks of having a crush on someone else make them look noble? I thought I was smart. He was tall, rich and handsome. I investigated him for so long on a whim before letting him move into my rental house. In the end he tricked me into getting him. Within a few weeks he gave me such a big surprise. I wanted to howl loudly, but I felt it wasn't necessary. After breaking up with Zhou Luo, Gu Yuan Chen was afraid that I would regret it and go back to him, so he has been serving me like an aunt, being humble and coaxing me. He is more professional than professional, so I'm not at a disadvantage, I've come to terms with it. They are all bastards. Who hasn't met bastards in their life? But the tears still flow, and the sound of blowing my nose, it was a little big, which alarmed the flight attendant. The flight attendant asked me worriedly if I needed help. I lifted the blanket and found that there was no one next to me. She poured me a glass of water and came back after 5 minutes, asking me in a soft voice if I needed help. I was very embarrassed and still caused trouble for others. With the care and love of Kong Cheng all the way, my mood finally stabilized when the plane was about to land. My friend was on a business trip and he asked me to stay at his place. I refused and went to the hotel. I slept until noon the next day, ignored the messages I didn't want to pay attention to, ordered takeout, and then slept until the moon was at its zenith. I couldn't sleep at night. The hotel costs 498 a night. The nature of a miser made me, I can't waste this spontaneous trip, I'm so self-destructive, I'm sorry for my air ticket money. I made a travel guide, gave me 6 hours to do my nails, took photos everywhere, and waited for my friend to come back and accompanied me to check in everywhere. Before I went back, I took beautiful nail art travel photos, including the ancient city wall of Dian Pagoda, and the gorgeous night view of Qinglong Temple Road. I sorted them out and posted them on WeChat Moments, which put a perfect end to my trip. Yes, the trip is over. I went back to City A without any backbone. Although I was like a stray dog when I left, now I am fully revived, but I only took a week off. After the holiday, I can only go back to the Gu family, who have a close relationship with me. I continued to work in the company. I was just an employee. There was a huge difference between resigning or being fired by the company. I never had a problem with money. And there was another reason for returning to the city. I didn't want to go home. Although going home could solve my work problems, why should I give up my current job when my career was on the rise? It was as if I had done something against the will of heaven and earth, and after being righteously beaten by them, I rolled back to my hometown in disgrace. It was not me who committed the heinous crime. I couldn't act like they squeezed me to the point where I couldn't make it. I would change jobs because of the sound insulation, but it was definitely not because I was wrong. When I returned to the door of my house, Gu Yuan Chen's things were gone. I had lost sight of him. There was a sticky note on the door, which said he wanted to talk to me when I came back. I took a look at it, tore it off and threw it into the trash can. Our mutual friend told me on WeChat that Gu Yuan Chen was looking for me, and asked if I wanted to meet him. I replied that it was unnecessary and impossible. There was no future for us. Just think about it and you will know how many parents would be open-minded enough to allow their son-in-law and daughter-in-law to be ex-boyfriends and girlfriends. Besides, my love brain was cried out. I suspected that Gu Yuan Chen's character was not as cheerful and straightforward as he appeared. For the happiness of his sister, he was willing to go all out, study my preferences, prescribe the right medicine, pretend to be a sunny boy, and deceive me into a happy ending. I was so stupid that I thought there were rich people and pretty silly boys waiting for me to pick them up. The sincerity that attracted me was fake, all fake. There was nothing worth lingering about him. When I returned to the company, there was a big bunch of roses on the table. My colleagues pointed to a row of dried roses in the corner, and told me that there were such a big bunch every day during the days when I was not here. I took a deep breath. It seemed that the young master could not stand being dumped. I had to accompany him to the end of the show. I distributed the flowers to my colleagues on the spot, then pulled Gu Yuan Chen off the blacklist and asked him to meet in the evening. I thought I would be entangled and painful on the first day back to work, and distinguish the strange eyes around me, But work did not allow me to have time. Sad and depressed, I was so busy that I only ate 2 bites of lunch. In a blink of an eye, I found that the agreed time had come. There was so much work piled up, but I still got off work on time, and walked out the door facing the envious eyes of my colleagues. Tomorrow they will all find that Cinderella was just a feint, but it was still Cinderella. Gu Yuan Chen was late. I waited in the restaurant for almost an hour. In the middle, I doubted whether this was his way of making fun of me. I picked up the bag and was about to leave when I saw him appear with a lot of bags. The waiter called him Mr. Gu, listened to his instructions, took the things. He was dressed up carefully, and his clothes were neat and tidy. His hair was not dry yet. I maliciously speculated in my mind what he was doing just now when I got there. Gu Yuan Chen had just caught his breath when he saw that I looked unhappy. His breathing became tight, and he immediately explained that he saw the circle of friends I posted yesterday, and thought that I was still in Xi'an, so he went to Xi'an overnight with a surprise. As a result, when he knew that I was back today, he hurried back. After that, he looked at my face carefully as before. He should know what I want to hear now. He is not really stupid but pretending to be stupid. I was cutting the steak and listening to him talking endlessly about this and that, as if he could pretend that the previous things had not happened if he didn't mention it. This confession was tasteless to me. What was he doing? He hadn't had enough fun and wanted to continue. Must I be covered in bruises before you are satisfied? I stood up and wanted to leave, but he grabbed me, and after a snap of his fingers the lighting and music in the restaurant changed, cakes, flowers, etc. were pushed up, and Gu Yuan Chen knelt on one knee, holding the diamond ring in one hand and holding me with the other. In the past, I could not refuse his expectant eyes, but now I was too lazy to take another look, so I shook him off and walked out. The guests around were all staring at us, but it didn't matter. This was not the first time I was embarrassed, and I didn't care if it happened again. On the main road, I stopped, turned around and looked at Gu Yuan Chen, who was following me, and said word by word, "Don't follow me, we broke up, it's over. Don't contact me again in the future." He was going to cry or not, but shook his head and said no. It doesn't matter. This is a notification, not a request for opinion. I took a deep breath. This was our last meeting. I tried to be calm and asked 2 questions I wanted to know. I asked him if Gu Jing had been with Zhou Luo before I broke up with him. He was silent for a while and nodded. I asked again if you approached me because of Gu Jing. He was silent for a longer time but still nodded. Sincerity is indeed the ultimate skill. The psychological defense line I had built up collapsed again. Knowing the truth in your heart and being told the truth are 2 different feelings. I completely gave up and turned to leave. Gu Yuan Chen grabbed me and said, "Don't you have anything else to ask? You can ask me something else." I pulled my hand out with all my strength. I didn't want to argue with him and put on a soap opera, but he was still chattering, "Guzi," and asked, "Ask me again." I got into the taxi. I stopped. Because of Gu Yuan Chen just now, my tears were about to flow again. Asking whether you have loved or not. Shouldn't this be a question that only the male and female protagonists ask when they are about to be killed? The answer of yes or no is the difference between making me sad or even sadder. I don't want to humiliate myself again, so there is no need to ask. Go ahead, go ahead. I still have a mountain of work and no background. I have to work harder. Gu Yuan Chen has looked for me several times, but I am hard-hearted. No matter what he does, it is useless. So after a while, he gave up and there was no movement. I breathed a sigh of relief and wanted to start a new life very much. But when Zhou Luo blocked me at the bottom of the community building, I found that I still had historical problems to solve. He drove a Maybach. When we saw each other, we would say, "Wow, what a car, noble and nourishing." Seeing his brand new appearance, my first reaction was to move quickly. I don't think there is anything to say about him. I have already put him on the pillar of shame in my heart and tortured him to death. $3,600, he won't get any sentence reduction if he comes to me. Of course, it's more likely that he wants to judge me in reverse. I just took out the garbage, wearing home clothes, walking slippers, messy hair. In sharp contrast to his radiant, stark contrast, 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 stark contrast. Stark contrast, stark contrast, stark contrast, stark contrast, stark contrast, stark contrast. M is a restaurant that Zhou Luo and I would come to every anniversary. Every Western dish here suits our tastes. However, because of the price per person of 5,000, we, who had just graduated, agreed to come here only once a year. But what makes me feel uneasy now is not the 5,000 yuan, but the bright lights, which illuminate my life too clearly. Zhou Luo must trick me once before he will give up. Forget it, as long as I don't act embarrassed, no one will know that I am embarrassed. In this confession, Zhou Luo asked me why I broke up with Gu Yuan Chen first. It's funny that he didn't know why, but asked such a meaningless question. But I suddenly shook my head and wanted to disgust him, so I said it was because I couldn't let you go. Seeing his eyes staring in disbelief, the possibility of being an unforgettable ex-girlfriend flashed through my mind, but my acting skills are zero. Seeing the scumbag burst out laughing in 3 seconds, he realized that he was fooled by me, and I was so happy, but then I put away my smile and asked him directly, "You cheated on me at the beginning, was it good? Now you are legitimate, is it still good?" My words were harsh, he stopped laughing and just ate silently, But how could I let him go? I continued in a sarcastic tone. You came to me. Gu Jing knew that he was so generous. He didn't care that you are the general manager now. He was not afraid that the eldest lady would be unhappy. He fired you and got you married. You have worked hard for 20 years and you have made a breakthrough. Do you need me to congratulate you? I beat around the bush and threw out my elegant dirty words. I had to vent my anger, who made him run into my gun. But when I was dry in my mouth, he only poured me a glass of red wine without any intention of refutation. I drank a sip like a cow drinking water, and saw Zhou Luo shaking the wine glass elegantly, as if I had been playing the lute to a cow just now, which made me very bored. I lowered my head to eat. Remember the first time we came here? Zhou Luo took a sip of red wine. He spoke calmly. There was no red wine on the menu, so where was the 100,000 yuan bottle? It was placed on the table like a work of art. You joked that it was on display but not for sale. I wonder if the 100,000 yuan red wine can taste the flavor of mutai mixed with grape juice. You tasted it just now. Does it taste like white wine mixed with grape juice? I looked at the bottle next to it and recognized the French words on it. At that time we looked up this wine out of curiosity. It is known as the Hermes of red wine. The annual production is not high, and you can't drink it even if you have money. Now it is not for sale in the restaurant and is placed on our table like this. You scolded me so much just now, you must be mad. But do you think I am the only one who feels sorry for you? Have you ever said this to Gu Yuan Chen? Have you ever said this to Gu Jing? You only dare to do this to me because you think you can only bully me. Do you think I haven't heard enough of this kind of words during this period? He smiled at himself and his tone didn't change much. He continued, Zhonghua, I asked you if you didn't. If there is Gu Jing but there is only Gu Yuan Chen, will you choose him or me? If there is only Gu Yuan Chen who is pestering you, can you guarantee that you will not be moved? Put yourself in his shoes and think about what you would do. This is the situation I was facing at the time. Zhou Luo stared at me closely and said word by word. Do you know that every time I rejected Gu Jing's confession, I said that I had a girlfriend. When I knew that Gu Yuan Chen was pursuing you, I hoped in my heart that you could reject him righteously. I thought that if you could reject Gu Yuan Chen, then I could also reject Gu Jing. We would not be rich, but we could be as happy as all ordinary families. However, Zhonghua, a prosperous and dangerous road, is charming enough. You are also moved, aren't you? Zhonghua, I am not blaming you. We have known each other for 8 years. Even if we break up, I just hope that you will not blame me anymore. Hongmen banquet picture. Qiongbai saw me wipe the corners of my mouth and stare at him without compromise. Zhou Luo, do you think that with my conditions before Gu Yuan Chen, hadn't there been any tall, rich and handsome men chasing me? Have you ever noticed something wrong with me? Have I ever stayed out all night? I looked at his changed face and continued, you want to talk about hypotheticals? Then I'll give you a hypothesis. I reject Gu Yuan Chen, you leave Gu Jing, we get married and have children. I will fulfill all the responsibilities and loyalty of a wife and mother. But you don't quibble that you can't resist temptation. You just expect me to get a chastity arch. How did you treat me before Gu Yuan Chen appeared? You forgot to pay me back. Wei Shi resents you the most. You also know 8 years without Gu Yuan Chen. How long have you been using cold violence against me? You and Gu Jing haven't reached the final step yet. What else is there? It was like this before marriage. Can you guarantee that you won't do it after marriage? You don't even have the courage to admit that you have changed your mind. You can only cover up your mistakes and deceive yourself. I took a deep breath and knocked on the table. The bottle of red wine on the table. You want to use the huge benefits of crossing classes to cover up your infidelity in the last relationship, and you want to drag me to do the same as you to get balance, because you know that your utilitarianism for this marriage has exceeded the range of your moral sense. So I have nothing to blame on Gu Jing. We have known each other for 8 years. I know Zhou Luo. He is ambitious and capable. What he said just now is almost like sleeping on straw and tasting gall. So I have a subjective feeling that Gu Jing will not be happy in the future. He used to be the touchstone of my feelings, and after that he will probably be like the successful Phoenix men and the original wives of entrepreneurs. I hope Zhou Luo can still have some conscience and Gu Jing won't be too unlucky, but it has nothing to do with me now. Let's turn the page. We are not in the same world anymore. Don't waste my time. Zhou Luo's matter made me feel bad. One night, his so-called hypothesis also appeared in my dream. If we were happy for 2 years, and then soon it was full of quarrels and betrayals, the ending would be no different from what I expected. His background could not support his ambition. He wanted to take shortcuts so he would not reject those rich women. Well, just stop the loss before marriage. I don't have that ability. I'd better take it step by step. But why did Gu Jing come to me too? I have been working non-stop for 2 weeks. When I was waiting for the elevator, I was holding all the materials. My head never stopped planning what to do today. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 Gu Jing suddenly appeared at this time. She hit me twice with her bag, and then dragged me out without saying a word. The things in her hands were scattered all over the floor. I was so upset. I haven't finished my report yet. I am just a working person who makes a living with my own hands. Can you please stop using me as a joke? I shouted these words, and while he was stunned, I pulled out my arm and squatted down to clean up the mess. The floor was a mess. My tears were uncontrollable again, but I had to hold it in, hold it in, hold it in. I must not cry in front of him. I lowered my head all the way to the restroom in time. Brooke's beating didn't hurt, but it made people cry a lot. Why did he have to? Why did they call me? When I moved, I even threw away the commemorative photo albums. Everything related to them was either given away or thrown into the trash. I also made new friends. I almost forgot about what happened before during this period of time, but why did they come to me again? Can't they live without me to make life more fulfilling? When I adjusted my mentality and came out, Gu Jing had already left and didn't come again for a few days. I was already submitting my resume to change jobs, but I received a notice from my boss that I would be transferred to a southern city. It was a blessing from heaven, so I happily packed up my things and took up the position immediately. Although I am still in a foreign country and don't earn as much as in city, at least I am much more relaxed. The housing prices in South City are also higher than in City A. I was getting closer and closer to my goal. Finally, in the third year, I saved enough money and bought a small second-floor shop that I had my eyes on when I first arrived in Nanchur. I had a dream since I was a child, to own a large coffee shop in a place with mountains and water, to watch the clouds roll by the lake or the sea, and to be a literary young woman. So I passed the exam to become a senior barista in college, and worked in a coffee shop. Whenever I had time, I would perform coffee art for my friends. The difference is that my dream was gradually improved and reorganized as I understood the reality. My shop is next to the bus station, opposite the pedestrian street, and a newly built community. The infrastructure of the ground floor shop is complete, but the price is not cheap. But for the sake of safety, I still chose this place. I like the Baroque style, and I have collected a lot of retro, gorgeous and colorful things from every city I have been to. In the near future, they can all be placed in my coffee shop, but first of all, decoration is also a considerable expense. A long time ago, I asked my classmates who studied interior design to help me draw up the decoration sketches of several corners. I scribbled and revised them before using them, and then found a construction party to do the half package. After that, for a long time, I took root in major decoration markets and secondhand market shopping websites in every free time. When it was almost done, I quit my job and began to take care of my fruit wholeheartedly. Coffee. I am quite lucky. On the eve of the opening, I was standing on a ladder arranging the green plants on the outer wall. A photographer wanted to take a picture of me. I agreed to keep it as a souvenir. In one photo I was standing on a ladder, in another I was curled up on the sofa reading a magazine, in another I was making coffee, and in another I was holding the fruit coffee I made. The lucky cat was as happy as a fool. Although it was plain-faced, I was very satisfied, especially the one that looked like a fool. I was going to print it out and hang it on the wall, but I didn't expect the photographer to upload it to the internet, which made me a little famous. My shop sign was photographed clearly, and my happiness overflowed the screen. Everyone thought my smile was very contagious. Many people come to my store to clock in, and although the popularity has decreased after half a year, I am already very satisfied. I have finally realized my dream of curling up on the sofa and watching the hustle and bustle of the traffic outside. It would be great if it could always be like this, but some people just can't bear to see me having such a good time. One night it rained heavily and the power was out, so I asked my employees to go home early and planned to close the store and stay overnight. But just as I closed the door, a drunken figure squeezed in all of a sudden, and the rain he brought in splashed on my face. My screams were blocked by his lips, and I couldn't make any sounds at all. It was more like a kiss than a bite. I was scared, my hands and feet were cold, and the difference in shape made my struggles to him. It was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree. His two arms were like ropes, restraining me from all directions and making me unable to move. However, what was even more terrifying was that he picked me up and pressed me on the sofa. With a hissing sound, my hip skirt was torn open by him, and my shirt was about to be torn into pieces in his hands. I tried to find my voice and shouted his name, Gu Yuan Chen, in a hoarse voice. He was motionless and his head was still on my neck. In the past, he would act like a big dog and act coquettishly, and I would open my arms and stroke his hair like I was stroking the fur of a small animal, but now I just want to hold myself tightly. The single sofa can't hold both of us. He didn't move for a long time, but every time I thought he was asleep, and when I tried to push him away to get up, he would tighten his arms, making me unable to move again. I kept my eyes open for a long time, but I didn't know when I couldn't resist the sleepiness and fell asleep. The next day, I woke up on the sofa on the second floor, covered with my usual blanket, and my torn clothes reminded me that yesterday was not a dream. I covered my face with my hands and only took a short break. The employees were about to come, and I had to change clothes first. What was he doing? When I first came to Nanchur, I often received gifts that were not expensive but had special meanings. Although there was no name on the gift, I knew who it belonged to. I even suspected that he had picked up the things from the trash can. I don't like lingering feelings, so I simply refused to accept it, and he stopped. But it has been 3 years. What is he doing now? This incident broke my mood. I was absent-minded for a week, often making mistakes, and often staring at one place in a daze. But after he disturbed me, there was no other movement. After that day, my store added 4 one-touch alarm buttons, employee training on the use of pepper spray and small electric sticks, requiring at least 1 male employee to work the night shift, which is bound to protect the safety of the staff and the boss, and to avoid all violations of laws and regulations. The convulsion after drinking happened again, and I calmed down again, and seriously, running my shop because the Baroque style is very photogenic. Many people come to the fruit coffee to take pictures, not because they love to drink coffee, so I cooperated with a famous cake shop and put up many special beautiful and delicious cakes and snacks to ensure that they look good no matter how you shoot them from 360 degrees. So gradually, fewer people came to order only one thing, and I slowly developed the sign of fruit afternoon tea. In order to cater to the public taste, I also researched 2 types of fruit tea, which have unique flavors and cannot be compared with brewed jams. Although the price is not cheap, I have become an internet celebrity store with the help of Dongfeng marketing, and my business is booming. I have attracted investors to open branches, and friends in city. A friend came here on a business trip, and we got together. After 3 rounds of drinks, he started to tell me gossip. For example, the eldest son of the Gu family married the eldest daughter of a well-matched family, a marriage of rich and powerful people. Wow, for example, the eldest daughter of the Gu family is getting more and more love-brained. Zhou Luo left the Gu family to start a business, and Gu Jing snatched all the orders from the Gu family and cut meat to feed Zhou Luo. The Gu family was fired by Gu Jing and lost a lot of money, and the eldest son had to sell himself to make up for it, and as a result, Zhou Luo was still unclear with his secretary, but the eldest daughter was like being drugged and was still devoted to him. I curiously asked if the big boss didn't care, and my friend said that the big boss wanted to care, but the first time the eldest daughter was pregnant, he couldn't do anything. The miscarriage occurred when the baby moved. Later I heard that everything they had agreed on in the future would be for the child, so the matter was dropped. In the end, the child was not saved. The Gu family wanted to persuade the eldest daughter to divorce, but she refused to agree. Then there was the cautious pregnancy preservation this time, which was to use the money from her parents' home to supplement her own family. Nothing happened when it came, but the eldest daughter always did this, and the eldest young lady was not happy. I heard that they had fought several times in young Master Gu's office alone with crackling sounds, and their fighting power was awesome. I held the wine bottle and listened to my friend's vivid description of the grudges between the rich and powerful, and I laughed along. It sounded like a novel. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Drunkenness came over me in a daze. I seemed to see another possibility at the beginning. Gu Yuan Chen and I reconciled. I enjoyed all the benefits he brought, and I couldn't avoid Gu Jing and Zhou Luo. Gu Jing would not be so generous, and I didn't want to be wronged. I could be a Longjing before the rain and pretend to be a good green tea so he couldn't beat me, and every time Gu Yuan Chen and Zhou Luo would blame him for being unreasonable. No one listened to his explanation, so he could only get crazier and crazier. He wanted to hit me with his car, but I was fine, but he had a miscarriage. No one felt sorry for him and everyone blamed him. Later I had a minor illness and Gu Jing gave me a blood transfusion, and I gave birth. I was seriously ill and Gu Jing dug out my kidney. Finally, he couldn't stand it anymore, and committed suicide after leaving a tearful letter. Then everyone regretted it, and I ended up in the same situation as Gu Jing, even worse than him. Gu's parents took me to Myanmar, and removed half of all the paired kidneys, leaving me to live in agony as a half-human, half-ghost. I couldn't die, and with a bang the beer bottle fell to the ground, waking me up. I was covered in a cold sweat, and touched my eyes, nose, ears, and long legs. Fortunately, dreams are the opposite. Women fight each other in emotional entanglements and both sides are hurt, and men disappear. Either blame you for making a fuss, or blame you for not being able to weigh the pros and cons. Fortunately, I had already smoked. Now, I am just a bystander who watches their rich and powerful families. Fortunately, I insist on being my own protagonist and have my own brilliance, without having to play supporting roles for them. Postscript: after several years, the restaurant has opened in the most prosperous commercial street in City A. It has changed from a simple coffee shop to a chain brand with 3 lines of coffee, Western food and tea. I have long retreated behind the scenes and only serve as a mascot when needed. The rest of the time I am basically pursuing poetry in distant places. After finishing the opening matters, I took my family and chose to have the last dinner in City A. We still chose Mr. for the simple reason that this store has been able to continue to operate for so many years. It is very rare. I wanted to try his dishes to see if they were still the same as before and suited my taste, but I didn't expect to see a drama. A girl was standing in front of a table of men and women, crying, and then was asked to leave by the bodyguard. It's a bit strange for a restaurant to have bodyguards. I was curious and looked at him a little longer to see who was the big shot. But from my angle, I could only see the waiter, who was politely pouring red wine for the people at that table. The little daughter was more gossipy than me. She lay on her father's shoulder and looked inside, looking at him like a monkey. I pretended to be angry and let him get off, but he told me mysteriously that the sister at that table looked like me. My husband and I were stunned at the same time and moved our necks to look over there at the same time. Mr. M. The light was bright, and I finally found an angle without any obstructions. I could see clearly who the man opposite me was. The world is small. You can encounter bad luck when you revisit an old place. Boss Zhou really followed the old path of the Phoenix Man, an entrepreneur who successfully turned over a new leaf. He had already swallowed up the Gu family, and there has been no news since Gu Yuan Chen went abroad with his wife. Gu Jing died a few years ago, whether due to illness or other reasons I don't know. Before he died, I received a letter from him, but it was accidentally wet by my aunt when she was cleaning. I don't know what he said to me at last, but I hope he can have a script for rebirth. In the next life, keep your eyes open and don't treat Zhou Luo as a treasure anymore. I have been thinking about the food for many years, and now I have eaten it again, but I found it was just so. Maybe it was because I could only afford to eat it once a year back then, so I added a filter to it. Now I taste it, and it's not as good as the fruit restaurant where I'm affiliated with, and I added drama to myself. I guess this is the reason why the decoration has not changed for many years. Guess if they drank a 100,000 yuan red wine. Thinking of the girl who was taken away just now, she was a bit unlucky like me. Guess although I left, I still have mine. The legend is commonly known as the white moonlight. I was so sick of thinking about it that I couldn't eat. The father and son finally finished eating, and when we walked out together, we still ran into someone we didn't need to see again. Zhou Luo frowned and looked me up and down, and then when he was about to overflow with joy, I rolled my eyes at him so big that my eyeballs were about to pop out, and never looked at him straight in the eye, and left with my husband and daughter. The eldest daughter opened a homestay in Dali, and there is also a cafe on the first floor. Outside the window are Tsongshan Mountain and Arai Lake. Tomorrow we will go to appreciate it together. It is another dream that helped me realize it. For irrelevant people, let him stay in this flashy world by himself. Love, hate, and grudges don't get hurt by me anymore. The whole text is over.